That, ladies and gentlemen, is why you put your dick in your pants. Let's talk about it. Hello, boys and girls. It's your favorite dumb casual coming to you today. Welcome to this episode. Let's have a conversation. Today, I'm going to be focusing on certain aspects of the news in the MMA world that we've been hearing over the past couple of days. I'm going to start off with Actually, we're not going to start off with this. I'll probably save this for the last or whenever I feel like bringing it or transitioning into this topic. But we're going to talk today about Conor McGregor, the great or not so great Conor McGregor, and all his legal challenges happening as a result of his dick. We're also going to talk about Jamahal versus Jiri Prochazka. I've got some stuff to say about that fight. Very excited for that. I want to turn my eyes a little bit and have a conversation about Carlos Ulberg. Do you guys know who Carlos Ulberg is? If you don't, you should. We're going to talk about him a little bit. Garry is going to fight Shavkat Rakmonov. Okay, didn't see that one coming. I honestly thought we were going to see Garry and Colby Covington. Did not happen. Good call, UFC. We're going to talk about that. Rampage Jackson and Jake Paul. What's up with that? Like, what's up with that? What's going on over there? Going to talk about that, and then I think the last thing I'm going to discuss today, this new trend, it's been a trend actually, not really a new trend, but it's been happening for a while now, where fighters seem to be easily upset by Daniel Cormier's commentary. Why though? I'd like us to talk about it, right? So, without further ado, let me dig those damn claws into all these conversations. Who are we gonna talk about first? Let's go with Jamahal and Jiri Prochazka. So, you guys know the story. Jamahal was a former light heavyweight champion on the UFC. He had to vacate the belt due to an injury he sustained ahead of a fight. And Jiri Prochazka was also a former light heavyweight champion. So the one thing these two guys have in common is that the two things actually, is that they were both light heavyweight champions in the UFC in the not so distant past. And the second most prominent thing is that both these fighters have had their lights shut out by Alex Poatan Pereira in the last 2 years. Literally. Alex Poatan Pereira slept Jamahal at UFC 300 in a classic fashion. And he's finished Jiri Prochazka twice. One was a stoppage, and the second one literally was a head kick, left kick to the head. Slept Jiri. So these two guys are now looking to come back into light heavyweight Title contention. Jiri, after his last loss, mentioned something about he's going to go on this journey to evolve as a fighter, otherwise he's going to retire. Hey, listen, if he wants to do that, I support it. If you cannot evolve in MMA, you have no business being in MMA. Can we agree on that? Jamahal Hill, on the other hand, he was scheduled to fight in his return fight. He was scheduled to fight Khalil Roundtree. That fight fell through, and I think Jamahal had some injury. Khalil went on to fight Alex Pereira, who completely destroyed Khalil Roundtree, Khalil put up a valiant effort. But man, we all saw his face afterwards. He was just completely destroyed, right? So now we have Jamahal Hill and Jiri Prochazka announced as a fight, the next fight to make for the #1 contendership in the light heavyweight division. Because it looks to me, just judging on the landscape, it looks to me like we will finally have Alex Pereira fighting Magomed Ankalaev, who really is truly the #1 contender and has been the #1 contender in the light heavyweight division for many months now. If we're being fair and we're being very technical, following the rankings, I've done videos about this in the past. Following the rankings, I do not believe Khalil Roundtree deserved a title shot over Magomed Ankalaev, but it would look this way now. It looks like we're gonna have this Magomed Ankalaev after Ankalaev's last fight against Alexander Rakic. However, I didn't think that performance was like spectacular, but listen, it wasn't Ankalaev's best night, but he got the W, and we cannot deny him the #1 contendership. Like, it makes no sense for the UFC to do that at this point for everybody to see. It would be too obvious. The politics would be too obvious, right? So since that is going to happen, you gotta line up your next contender in the event that Poatan and Ankalaev fight. Now, depending on how that fight goes, you may have a rematch, or you may just have the next contender, vie for the belt, whoever the champion is, whether it's Poatan or Ankalaev. And right now, the best guys for the #1 contender job, it's literally Jiri Prochazka and Jamahal Hill. And it makes it all the more sweeter when you recall that Jiri Prochazka was supposed to fight Jamahal Hill after Jamahal Hill won the belt from Glover Teixeira, and Jiri Prochazka had to go for surgery, did his surgery, was done, and decided to come back. That's when that fight should have happened. But you know how the landscape goes with MMA. Injuries are a thing. Plans may not align. The stars may not exactly be, in alignment with all the plans that we have. But I'm very happy this fight is happening, because it's a fight I want to see. Strictly from a fan's perspective, I want to see this fight. I really couldn't care less who wins this fight. I just like to see momentum in the light heavyweight division. I really do. And since the title fight is looking like it's going to be lined up, the #1 contender is looking like it's going to be lined up, and we're all the better for it. Thank you, UFC. I really appreciate you guys for trying at least to do the right thing this time around. You know what I'm saying? Because we all know the UFC does a lot of shit. There's a lot of crap the UFC does when it comes to matchmaking, and sometimes they don't even really justify it, why they make certain actions. And I'll take this back to the Khalil Roundtree fight. At the end of the day, right, I enjoyed the Khalil fight. I wasn't sold on it until about 2 weeks to the fight. Then I'm like, let's give Khalil a shot. Khalil goes in there and he put on a show. Porton put on a show, and we enjoyed it. Very memorable. Khalil's stock went up, Porton's stock went up. So I think that decision turned out well in the end. It doesn't take away the fact that at the time that match was booked, Magomed Ankalaev was supposed to be the next guy in line. So, understanding that they've now started doing things the right way, at least in the moment, you've got to appreciate the matchup between Jamahal Hill and Jiri Prochazka. Who you guys got, by the way? Who you guys got? I personally do not have any preference, guys. Like I always tell you, I don't make predictions, I make preference. I have preferences, right? When it comes to certain fights. But I don't have a preference in this fight. I don't have a preference between Jamahal Hill and Jiri Prochazka. But if I had to bet my money on who's going to win, based on their styles and the last history, they both got KO'd this year. They both had their lights shut out this year. Jiri got stopped twice. And in Jiri's last two fights, I did not see any dynamism. I think that whole unorthodox, awkward style that Jiri Prochazka has, yeah, that fight, that may not translate very well against Jamahal Hill. I'd probably put my money on Sweet Dreams Hill. I think I would. I think I would. You know, not to disparage or bring down Jiri Prochazka's skill level, because Jiri Prochazka used to be a champ in whatever fighting league he had over in Europe before he got to the UFC. He eventually became a champ in the UFC, made light work of Dominic Reyes, if everybody remembers that fight very well, and other people, and got to the belt real quick, had a war with Glover Teixeira. He had a war with Glover Teixeira to get that belt. So, not trying to rain on Jiri's parade, but just based on what I saw in the last two fights from Jiri Prochazka against Porton, he didn't even really make much changes or adjustments in the second fight against Porton. And that just makes you think, like, you're gonna come in there against Jamahal Hill with that fight style. There's enough footage on you to know that Jamahal can take advantage of it. And Jamahal, whether you like it or not, Sweet Dreams is actually a dynamic fighter. Now, and I mean dynamic in the sense that he knows how to mix it up very well against guys in that division. That's why he's in the position that he's in. It's very exciting. I'm looking forward to it. This might be a good point to transition because we're still talking about the light heavyweight division. And on that note, I want to transition to somebody that has been on my radar for a little bit now, sometime over about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. Carlos Ulberg. You guys may not know Carlos Ulberg because, you know, he's not yet as popular. He's not yet as popular as he should be. It's not superstar level. I think you've got to be a hardcore fan to sort of know who he is. Not the average casual really knows who Carlos Ulberg is, but he's been on my radar because the dumb casual is not an average casual. I'm just saying. Anyway, why am I talking about Carlos Ulberg? Carlos Ulberg is a fighter coming out of the City kickboxing camp. He's friends with Israel Adesanya, and he's trained by Eugene Berman over there in New Zealand, City kickboxing. Carlos Ulberg has been on a run in the UFC, but it's a quiet run. Because he's not so popular, not a lot of people have been paying real attention to him. The boy can scrap. The boy moves very well. He has knockout power, great foot movement. So far, I haven't seen him in a 5-round fight, but I want to believe that Carlos Ulberg can hold his own in a 5-round fight, because in all the fights that I've seen him, he's either made light work of his opponents and put them out, or won the fight in 3 rounds or less. He's either done that, or he's actually gone the distance in a 3-round fight and still, you know, was able to get the W all the while. And he just recently had his biggest test in his recent fight with Volkan Ozdemir. Volkan No Time Ozdemir was ranked number 8, I believe. Volkan was ranked in the light heavyweight division. I mean, Volkan is a veteran. One-stop knockout power, one punch, literally. Very, very skilled, very good fighter. One time, even challenged Daniel Cormier for the belt when when DC was the light heavyweight champion. If Volkan Ozdemir fought him for the belt, DC had that boy in a crucifix and completely smashed his skull in with a couple of elbows. I remember that. If you guys don't remember that, that was oof. It's hard to watch. But Volkan has come back. He's been very, very active in the years since then. A couple of losses, a couple of wins. Even managed to go on some winning streak before facing Carlos Ulberg. And guess what? Ulberg made very nice work of Volkan Ozdemir. Now, I've always known Carlos Ulberg can fight, but I always just thought, yeah, he's really being put against tough competition. If I had doubts about that, yeah, I don't have those doubts anymore. He looked good against Volkan Ozdemir. That is a guy who just fought a former light heavyweight title contender. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you can get to contender status, yeah, you top 5, yeah, the top 5 is no joke in any division in the UFC. And Carlos Ulberg came out in flying colors. Now, he's mentioned, I saw him in an interview, he mentioned that he wanted to fight Alex Pereira. Interestingly enough, he wants to fight Alex Pereira because he believes that he matches up very well with Alex Pereira in terms of their fighting styles. And he doesn't even care if it's for a belt or not. And I personally think, I might be wrong on this because again, the UFC have the ultimate say, but I personally think that Carlos Ulberg is 2, at most 3 fights away from a title shot. If he keeps up this contention and this winning streak. And I'm hoping Alex Pereira remains champion long enough to fight Carlos Ulberg, and if he doesn't and they still fight, sign me up. Sign me up immediately. I want to fucking see that fight. Like, give me the dotted line, sign me up, fucking take my money. I want to see that fight from a fan's perspective. There's also the added dynamic or the added layer when you think about it. Carlos Ulberg is, you know, he's boys with Izzy. You guys see where I'm going with this? Carlos Ulberg is boys with Izzy. And since he's boys with Izzy, he might want to fight Portan on behalf of the City Kickboxing, because at the end of the day, even though Izzy had the last win against Alex Portan, listen, my boy, you are, what is it, 3-1? You know, Izzy, listen, I get it, your win over Alex was more spectacular than any of Alex's wins over you. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things, Alex has beaten you 3 times, right? I know the history of the first two fights. I did actually watch those fights. I know you were piecing them up until, you know, the first fight with Alex Pereira. It looked to me like Izzy was cheated out of that fight by the judges. In the second fight, Izzy was literally piecing Alex up until Alex caught him with that left hand, shot his lights out. Then they fought in the UFC. Alex beat Izzy. I don't care what Izzy wants to say about the referee. Alex beat Izzy. Izzy makes one of the greatest championship comebacks in UFC history when he beat Alex Pereira. Let's not even go there. That moment in time got me jumping out of my seat, screaming, rejoicing that Izzy won that belt. I loved it. I loved that moment. So back to it, there's that added dynamic between Carlos Ulberg and Alex Pereira. I'm very eager to see how that's going to play out. I'm very, very excited about it. Do I seem slightly excited today? I don't know. I seem to be using the word excited a lot. Well, that's because I am. God damn it. Let's transition. My man, Ian Machado Garry, whom as of right now, I do not like. I don't hate him, I just don't like him. I'm not a fan of Ian Garry, right? But I do respect him as a fighter. The last fight with Michael Venom Page, we all expected a strike fest, and whoops. Sometimes you gotta use this before you learn how to use this. And Ian Garry demonstrated that he could use this in a fight because his game plan against Michael Venom Page was not to strike, because even when he tried to strike, he found out real quick that there's levels to the striking when you're in the octagon against MVP. So Ian Garry made some adjustments and applied a game plan to take Michael Venom Page to the ground, knowing fully well that Michael Venom Page wrestling ain't really his strong suit, right? But now Ian Machado Garry has been announced to fight Shavkat Rakmonov. Shavkat Rakmonov, right? Shavkat, if you guys remember, Shavkat is this, he's sort of like the boogeyman in the welterweight division. He really is, right? And he was next in line to fight Belal Muhammad for the UFC welterweight championship belt. That was supposed to happen in December 2024. However, as we know, and I reported a while ago, Belal Muhammad had I think he had a really, really bad staph infection, and he was asked by his doctors to not do anything for the next 6 weeks. So that fight fell through, and then Shavkat Rakmonov had nobody to fight him. A lot of names were thrown out there. Guys started stepping up. I think Kamaru Usman's name was thrown in the mix. I believe Colby Covington might have also been thrown in the mix. And then I had no idea Ian Garry was even being considered until the match was announced. I'm like, oh, okay. I looked at it. I see that as a very, very intriguing fight. You have two guys on a winning streak. Nobody has solved either one's puzzle at this point. Very rarely does that happen in the UFC, where it's two guys who are undefeated, who are going to go up against themselves at that higher level. Shavkat didn't really have to go against Ian Garry, right? But I think this fight works well for either of them. If you can have Ian's head as part on your wall, that's a good one. To be the first guy to give Ian Garry is to take his O in MMA. On the other hand, if Ian Garry is able to pass Shavkat Rakmonov, and he does that in spectacular fashion, bro, he's gonna have to get my respect. I would regret to do it, but I'm still gonna have to give it. If he can make it past Shavkat in spectacular fashion, Because I gotta give him balls first for even stepping up to take this fight. And making sure that Shavkat has a fight while Belal sits out and recovers. And it's very smart strategically too for Ian Garry, because Ian Garry has been trying to fight Colby Covington while he's rising through the ranks, right? In the welterweight division. Unfortunately, Colby doesn't consider him worthy yet. Don't know why. I thought that would have been a great fight. I thought that would have been a great fight. Colby Covington and Ian Garry had fought. However, now with Shavkat Rakmonov facing off with Ian Garry now literally has a very, very good chance to propel himself into title contention. Hey, if he gets it and he wants to fight Belal Muhammad, interesting fight. If Shavkat gets it and he wants to fight Belal Muhammad, also interesting fight. Quite frankly, if I'm being honest, I think if Shavkat can make it past Belal, if he could make it past Belal, he'd probably be an unexciting champion. I say this because, listen, you guys know, at the end of the day, we love the fights, but we also love the entertainment, right? We are entertained. That's how you sell fights. It's not just the skills, it's the trash talk, it's the attitude. That's why Conor is who Conor is. Would this be a good time to transition to Conor's talk or not? No, I'll save Conor for last. Anyway, yeah, I'm eager. I'm eager to see that fight. Okay, transition. So Mike Tyson, Jake Paul, and the fiasco that it was is over. We can now officially hear the last of it. It's over, right? But as is the case with fights and gimmick fights like that, there's always a ripple effect. So one of the ripple effects of the Tyson versus Jake Paul fight is that Quinton Rampage Jackson, the former light heavyweight champion of the UFC, for MMA fighter in Bellator, movie star, at this point, podcast host of the Jackson podcast, he's sort of been calling out Jake Paul for a boxing match. And I like it. I like the fact that Rampage is called out Jake Paul. Will it ever happen? I don't think so. I think Rampage is just too active for Jake Paul. And who knows? With this whole Jake Paul thing, who knows? Are these fights real? You know, most likely not. Do they have clauses in the contracts that prevent certain things from happening? I truly believe so. I truly think there's just some things in Jake Paul fights that do not really add up or make much sense, if you know what I mean. Judging from the Mike Perry fight, judging from the Tyron Woodley second fight, judging especially from this fight with Mike Tyson. Something does not add up. Something doesn't add up. So, if Quinton Jackson decides, or if Jake Paul decides Quinton Jackson might be his next opponent, which I really highly doubt it, I'm not excited about it. It would be interesting, but I'm not excited about it. I just feel like Jake Paul fights are like the WWE fights. Jake Paul knows how to finesse the world. Can we all agree? That boy knows how to fucking get your money. All of you. He knows how to get your money. He knows how to get that money from your pockets. You bitches better pay him. You bitches better pay him. Every time you tune in because you think you want to see Jake Paul get knocked out. I mean, so do I. going to be a hypocrite over here. So do I. I like to see Jake Paul get knocked out too, okay? But I never paying for Jake Paul, fight with Jake Paul, never pay, ever. Never in my life will I do that. Never paying for a Jake Paul fight. Never have, if I'm being honest. But I have watched a couple of them, but I just never paid for them. Just never will. I don't know what Rampage is trying to gain. Rampage said something about Jake Paul is disrespecting MMA legends, and I'm like, yeah, that's not a good sell. Jake Paul is like what, 5-0 against MMA fighters? if it's real, he's 5-0. Even if it's wrestling, fucking hell. Goldberg, Bill Goldberg had what was that winning streak? Like 100 winning streak before it was broken, even in fake wrestling. So how much more Jake Paul in fake boxing? Listen, I call this fake boxing allegedly fake boxing. Definitely gimmick boxing. So he's what, 5-0, 6-0 at this point against MMA legends? Why is Quinton's going to be any different? The only thing Quinton has on Jake Paul might be size. I don't think Quinton's a better boxer than Jake Paul. Okay, probably also has power over Jake Paul, but Jake Paul will probably also be able to put his lights out. Are we surprised? What are we going to gain from this fight? Like what? What is Quinton going to do, right? Listen, Quinton, I'd rather see you fight Shannon Briggs. I'd rather see Quinton Rampage Jackson fight Shannon Briggs. That fight has all the workings of a fight that's going to be very dynamic in terms of the entertainment factor. And those two guys in the same room, oh my God, when they keep roasting themselves, it's hilarious. I'd rather watch that fight than Quinton versus Jake Paul. So Quinton, do me a favor, please, try to get that deal done with the Shannon Briggs fight. Trust me, we're going to tune in. Just do very good promotions on your podcast, which you already had Shannon Briggs on your podcast anyway. But do a lot of good promotion for that fight. I think that's a fight more people would love to see, rather than a fight that you guys want people to think that you're going to go in there and knock out Jake Paul. Like, I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. I'm sorry. It is what it is. I don't see it happening. I don't. Okay. How do you even spin it? Like what is the thing? Oh, he's what's the story behind that? He's disrespecting MMA fighters. Bro, he's been disrespecting MMA fighters and MMA legends for years. And every single one you guys put up against him gets flatlined. At this point, I don't want to see more of that. I just want you guys not to get in the ring with Jake Paul. Let Jake Paul go and fight boxers. MMA guys, please do not fight Jake Paul anymore. You guys are fucking ruining the sport, ruining the stock of the sport. When you fight Jake Paul, who's a gimmick fighter, and he knocks you guys out for the world to see. Fucking hate it. So I do not support Rampage Jackson going to fight Jake Paul. I don't. I'm sorry. That's just my personal dumb casual experience. Okay? My personal experience. Let's move on. Dear MMA fighters, what the fuck do you guys have against Daniel Cormier's commentary? Do you guys think he's biased because he has teammates or former teammates or whatever or preferences when they fight? Or do you guys think he's not qualified to give the commentary when he talks about these fights? Or what is it? Do you guys think that he's being very unfair to you? What is the deal? I'm talking to you, Joaquin Buckley. I'm talking to you, John Jones. I'm talking to you, Bo Nickel. I'm talking to you, Michael Chandler. And the list goes on and on. Nobody talks about Dominic Cruz when he's on he's doing the commentary. Nobody talks about Paul Felder. Nobody talks about John Gooden. Nobody talks about Dean Thomas. Nobody talks about Joe Rogan's commentary. Nobody talks about John Alex's commentary. Nobody talks about Megan O'Leary's commentary. What is it about DC's commentary that seems to irk your nerves so much? Because until you guys point it out, I usually listen to DC and I'm like, yeah, okay, DC is speaking from a fighter's perspective as well as a fan's perspective. And if that is the case, why can't he speak freely? You know what I'm saying? Why do you guys feel like DC shits on your parade? He just calls what he says. There have been fights where DC even I would say has some unfair comments to people like Islam Makhachev. I can't think of an example right now, but I do know that there was a fight. I can't remember if it was the Volkanovski fight or the Dustin Poirier fight. One of those fights, DC went in on what's his name? Islam Makhachev for a brief moment. However brief it was, but it just shows me that he's balanced, right? He's balanced. And if he's a balanced commentator, why do you feel bad when he says something and calls it how he sees it? Or is there some kind of ego thing going on because DC used to be a fighter and people feel like their egos are bruised when he talks to them and they start to get competitive in the sense that they want to fight DC and maybe kick his ass? I don't know. I have no idea why you guys do this shit. I have no idea. Dear fighters, please stay off DC's cock, okay? Stay off it. Let this man do his job. Don't fucking talk about what he says to the point where he has to come online and start apologizing or explaining with extra, give some extra explanation on, fights that he's called. I don't get it. I don't get it personally. I don't know why you guys do it. I don't know that fighters' egos are that fragile. It could be. It could be that I'm giving you guys a bit too much props when I say, oh, I respect fighters and I respect the mentality of fighters. Y'all could just be a bunch of bitches with your fucking fragile egos and shit. I don't get it. The man sees a commentary, why don't you take, if you listen to a commentary or any words or statement from the broadcaster, if you feel some type of way about it and it's not insulting, especially when there's nothing personal, he's just calling what he sees. I mean, that should be some kind of sign for reflection, introspection. Go back, study the tape, look at what he's talking about, and either improve on it, or if you want to call him out to it, have a conversation about it. Say, DC has 2 or 3 MMA shows online. Call him up, say, hey, DC, I want to talk to you about this comment you made about my fight against XYZ person because I felt some kind of way about it, or I have a difference of opinion. That's it. You know what I'm saying? That is it. What's with the feeling salty and all that? I don't get it. I don't get it. Well, I'm going to move on from this one. Guys, leave DC alone. That's all I'm going to say about that. Leave DC alone. DC is cool. DC calls it how it is. I think DC is pretty fair. By all standards, he could be way more biased. Like, you had me up there. If you had me up in there, yeah, I could never be a commentator. I'm just too biased. I'm too biased. I have my preferences, right? And if my preferences lose, I'm a sore loser too. I'm just saying. Speaking of sore losers, great time to transition. Conor McGregor. Man. I feel bad for Conor, and I do not feel bad for Conor. I'll tell you why. Conor McGregor recently got convicted in a civil lawsuit for SA, actual assault. Actual. You guys know what I'm saying, right? Now, I listened to the story. I heard the testimony. I read it. I read the lady's statement when the verdict was read. She came out to give a statement, outside the court. Personally, from what I've read, it's very questionable, that judgment, what that judgment was against Conor. Very, very, very questionable. However, you can't be somebody who complains about people shooting at you when you're the one who gives them the ammunition to shoot. I'll explain that. Conor's behavior outside the octagon in the last how many years, especially since the Floyd fight, it's been unhinged and it's been off the chains. I'm talking multiple assaults of regular citizens, celebrities. I'm talking multiple sightings with different women other than his fiancée, Dee Delvin, and I'll get to her later. It's been court cases after court cases. It's been what seems to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Intoxicated appearances, online, offline, all of it, for years. For years. He's a wild man. He's a rich, wild man. And when you become a rich, first and foremost, when you become a rich man, you're already a target. Then you become a rich, wild man. You are not just a target for law enforcement. You are a target for them damn groupies. These groupies want your money, sir. Right? You are Conor McGregor. There's a lot at stake. Oh, the moment he got that conviction, guess what? Everybody started distancing themselves from him. Because now Conor McGregor is associated with the word rape. What do you expect in a gynocentric world, in a post-Me Too world? What the hell do you expect? People are gonna stay away from you. Brand endorsements withdrawn. And I mean multiple withdrawn. Associates pull back from you. Whether or not you feel like you're innocent or guilty. When that verdict comes out the way it did, in a court of law and not the court of public opinion, it's a wrap. I've always said this. I've maintained this kind of sentiment in the video that I did about Alex Pereira when he was also accused of the same thing a couple of months ago. You should have known better, Conor. You should have known better by putting yourself out there, putting yourself in such an exposed position where people like her can take advantage of you. You can't knock her hustle. You cannot knock her hustle. She got paid, what, 250,000 euros or 250,000 pounds? I cannot remember. It's a 250K payment. A civil case. This could have easily been a criminal case too, and guess what's gonna happen? That's jail time. Now, Conor has come out, he's denied these allegations, he's issued statements, and he's also said he's instructed his lawyers to file an appeal on that verdict. That's not the point, bro. While I believe that those are lines of action you should take, but that's just not the point. The point is to never put yourself in that position in the first place. Does that make sense, sir? Just never put yourself in that position in the first place. That's how you ended up there with all this crap going on. Now your kids gotta grow up and see all this. D. Devlin has got to be, that lady is a godsend. She's an angel. When you talk about loyalty, listen, if there's one thing that's coming out of this story, is D's demonstrated loyalty for Conor. But even that doesn't look good, D. I saw your statement. That statement doesn't look good for the McGregor household. Either statements don't look good. This is not the time to be apologizing to D. Devlin and say, oh well, I should not have stepped out on the woman, the absolute love of my life. Shut the fuck up, get the fuck out of here, man. Get the fuck out of here, man. Get out of here. Like, get the fuck out. Because you should not have put yourself in that position at all. What's the UFC, I haven't heard an official statement from the UFC at this point. At the time of recording, I haven't heard an official statement from the UFC. I wonder what the UFC wants to do with Conor. How they're going to market Conor and, without necessarily having themselves tied up in the knot that is this messy saga surrounding Conor McGregor. How are they going to do it? Do they wait? See how it plays out with the appeal? Or do they go ahead, full steam ahead, and have themselves branded as a brand that supports, SA or domestic violence against women? I'm asking these questions because I really don't know how this is going to work out. How is it going to work out for Conor? Like, what do you think he's going to do? Makes no sense, right? I don't feel bad though. I don't feel bad for Conor McGregor for all the shit he's been doing offline. And I hope he learns his lesson from this. I really do. Because they say, that old saying, pride cometh before a man falleth. So pride comes before a man falls. Conor is a good example of that. I mean, even what's it called? There's a wax house in Ireland. They're gonna remove Conor's wax figure. Bro, did you guys see the wax figure though? Yeah, if I was Conor, regardless of regardless of this whole legal issue, I would have asked him to pull that shit down too. Guys, look at this. Look at this crappy piece of work, crappy piece of likeness, crappy piece of imitation that is supposed to be Conor McGregor. Like, what the fuck is this? Who did this? Someone needs to get fired. Somebody needs to get sacked. Who the fuck did this? You tell me. Anyway, back to it. I hope Conor bounces back because I always like a comeback story. All the legal cases that he's filing, the appeals, all come back good, well, vindicated. But I don't see it happening. It's like the whole picogram thing with John Jones. The moment you're a public figure, and your name gets tainted by certain kinds of things, that thing never goes away. It might reduce over time, but it never goes away. That will always be part of your history. That will always be part of your story. You walk into a room now, everybody's thinking, woo, rapist. Is that really what you want for your legacy, Conor? At this stage in your career, at this stage in your success story? Bruh, it's rough out here on these streets, right? And these groupies know it. These groupies are sharks and vultures. They can smell success a mile away. And guess what? Look at some of the greatest men in folklore history. Always brought down by groupies. I mean, Helen of Troy. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm going biblical here. Eve in the damn Bible. What the fuck was it? Delilah. Samson and Delilah. Delilah in the Bible. Name it, just name it. Just name it. Michael Jackson, Elvis Presley, Roman Polanski, who? Name it. There's so many celebrities have come down because of these damn groupies. When are athletes gonna learn? Mike Tyson, Robin Givens. When are you guys gonna learn? When are you guys gonna learn? Come on now. Kobe Bryant almost got brought down because of a groupie. When are y'all gonna learn, man? I'm just saying, we're tired of it. Fucking wishing the best of luck, guys. Mr. TDC is happy that you guys have been here this long. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification button. Share this video and more importantly, engage in the comment sections. I love to share and hear your thoughts on the subject matters of my videos. I love it. TDC out. Peace, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.